You're listening to the episode of Mr. Allard's Neighborhood. This is a place we're entitled to Brad's opinion, and not for your host, Brad Allard.
Well, another great week in the neighborhood. Going to be a big week. Got Shandy, Priddy Stogsdill here, is going to talk about her race for school board. And she's going to have all the answers to our problems, all the solutions.
Oh, my goodness. You're setting me up for failure already.
It's like we're going to be a top-ranked school in no time, you know, when she gets on school
I wish
board.
I was that amazing.
Okay. Well, you'll find out that she has a lot of good ideas and a lot of good motivations for running for the school board race. And we need people like her on the school board. And we have had people like her on the school board. I don't want to imply
No, I agree.
Different. You know, we were talking about before the show that there's a long list of people who served on the school board of high caliber, and we've been very, very fortunate for that in the last 20 to 25 years, but since I've been here. Okay,
Yeah.
I've been here about part of the BSD since '88, and almost all the school board members have been there for the right reasons and been very, very solid human beings. And so, if you could ask me about. I think everybody that wasn't, I'd have to sit there and think about it a while, but almost all of them have been top caliber, and it's because we have people like Shandy who are willing to do it. That's a hard job.
Yeah.
Yeah. See, it's also because that deep analysis she brings.
Well, I think that it's one of those things, if it didn't scare me a little bit, then I probably would not be the right person.
Right.
You know, I understand that, you know, the magnitude of what the school board does and what we bring to the community as a whole and how we affect the school district and the way it's viewed, really, you know.
And I think your position as a realtor would also play a very, very big role on the school board, because isn't it true that the quality of the schools is one of the first things that potential buyers ask about when they move to this area of the country?
Yes. Yeah. A school district is top of the, I mean, if someone has children, it's top of the list.
Yes. And
Yeah.
then, you know, I was talking to a couple of people yesterday in my Sunday school, and I told them you're going to be on the show and that you're running, and they were very excited to hear about it.
Oh, fun.
so
probably people I know from childhood. They probably remember
Not really.
my annoying self as a teenager.
No, they had kids in the school system.
Oh, okay.
And I'd like to say they know you because of this podcast, but no, they know of you because, you know, they knew who you were because of also your 817 page and.
Oh, nice.
Yes.
Good.
Because one of them mentioned that, another one had mentioned the fact that, you know, you'd help one of their friends buy a home and that kind of thing.
Oh, nice.
So those little things add up, don't they?
They do. I like it.
Yeah. So, and I said, well, yeah, she also sponsors my podcast. Go, you have a podcast? Oh, okay. Thanks, guys. They like to bust me up a lot. Here, I'm going to share this with as many people as
Do
I
people
can.
your age listen to podcasts?
Yeah, more than you might think.
I'm just joking.
Well, yeah, so we sit around the Victrola.
Yes.
You know, with the vacuum tubes.
Like back in the day when you were listening to, what was it, Annie? Or what was the
Amos
radio
and
show?
Andy.
Yeah. Well,
or
there was
The Shadow or whatever else. Yeah.
That was before my time, so I'm totally
Okay.
just...
Well, let's go talk about the sponsors while I'm here getting busted up. Thank you, Daniel, CrossFit Burleson, 317 Southwest Wilshire. He's also a Burleson graduate, as is his wife,
Yes.
Amber, and you probably know Daniel at least.
I do know Daniel.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. You and Daniel are my two original sponsors. You're still stuck with me all these
My
years.
goodness. We believe in you, Allard.
Oh, the controversies.
We believe in you.
Okay. Well, you know. I don't want to put that on your resume. Anyway, also CrossFit Burleson, 317 Southwest Wilshire. Go get a workout. It's going to be cold someday, and apparently, and you want a good place to do it indoors. And it's a really good workout with has a regimen for you. It has supervision. It's
I
training.
know lots of great people that work out there.
Yeah, it's a serious workout. It isn't like, you know,
Yeah.
isn't like.
Yeah, I'm not a CrossFitter. Sorry, Daniel.
My son said he went to a Planet Fitness one time and they had pizza there, and like.
Oh, my goodness.
What is the problem? Shannon Suter says, good morning.
Oh, hello.
How you doing? I'm glad you're listening.
Morning.
Also, and then here's you, of course, the real estate. How's the real estate going around here?
It's ramping up, you guys. It's busy.
Well, we ought to have you on again for real
Yeah,
estate purposes as well. And
Let's do that in February because, like,
Okay.
we'll be able to figure out what January looked like.
Yeah.
Right now we're all just like, ooh.
And if we mentioned offhand that you're running for school board, then too, well, there you are.
Oh my goodness. That's him, not me. Just so everybody is clarified.
Right. I'm telling you that you're going to be asked a couple of questions because there's, like we mentioned, there's a great deal.
There is.
Connection between real estate and the schools.
True.
But anyway, so things are ramping up, the rates are what they are. And is this a good time to buy or sell?
It's a good time for both right now. I mean, definitely negotiating. If you're a seller, no, you're probably going to have to negotiate, or your house is going to have to be pretty much perfect because buyers are picky. But it really is a great time. People are getting good rates. We act like the rates are terrible. I have someone at 5.25 just locked. So that's not bad. Better
than some, I hear. But anyway.
Yeah.
Also, our place, I just came from our place. And Otto says, hey. And he says that you have his support.
Oh, nice. I had the avocado toast the other day when I went. Yeah. Have it on rye with a fried egg. Well, trust me.
No, he asked, what I was going to ask you on the show and all this other stuff. He's walking around acting like a big shot. And I gave him an idea.
He is a big shot, Otto. Yeah,
but he said, you have, tell her she has my support.
I appreciate that very much.
That's a good recommendation.
I appreciate Otto. He's always so kind.
Yes, and of course, the breakfast was good. I was there for one of my BNI meeting, one-to-ones that we do. And the guy that I was talking with sells health insurance, but he used to be a Tesla repair person. And I said, according to Taylor, that doesn't exist because Teslas never break down. But since he's not on the mic right now, I can get away with all this. And he's, but anyway.
Hey, I do want to say a real funny story if Otto listens to this later. I've been meaning to tell him. So when my youngest was little, like 4 or 5, we would always say we're going to our place to eat. Well, she didn't realize till later. She was like, oh, the name is our place. It's not our place. Yeah. It's the name. She thought it was our place.
I had to make that clear when I first started doing these BNI meetings. They said, do you want to get together? And I said, sure, let's go to our place. And I'm like, huh?
What does that mean?
Well, particularly when you're talking to a lady. Yes. They're like, what? No, our place. Look out the window, see the sign. There it is. It's right because we meet at the Hampton.
Otto setting us up for failure.
But it is funny. What? All right. But here's another place that everybody likes to meet at, Wild Cigar and Culture. Chris as well. Yes. You're both within a year of each other, I believe, in graduation.
I think so.
A year or two or something like that.
He's a little bit younger than me. I'm old.
Yeah. Well, I can speak for him that he'll be very much on board with your candidacy.
Oh, good. Thank you, Chris.
I know he would be because y'all think a lot alike, and he wants, a great school system makes businesses better to run. Not easy. Nothing's easy about running a business, but it makes it easier than what it could be. And he's very much on board with the schools of this area. And it's also a great place to go for the playoffs, even though the Cowboys gagged it up.
Please, we're not going to go there. I'm still...
You burned your Dak t-shirt?
I just really need Jerry Jones to do something different with his life.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Yeah. Well.
Can someone run for his position?
No, if you got about $8 billion, right. But you're right. Anyway, but the rest of the playoffs will still be there for you to watch at Wild, and it's a good time to do it. Have a cigar, have a drink.
So I'm going for a Kelsey matchup, even though I'm not an Eagles fan. I love the Kelsey brothers. They are hilarious. Go watch their podcast. So funny.
I don't really have a dog in that hunt. But it is what it is. And, all right, on to the next year.
Right.
The Rangers will pull through for us. Okay. Also, thank you to Tiffany over at Local
Tiffany.
Life. Her magazine will be coming out next week. She also, I don't know if you saw this, but she got a profile done on her in a magazine in Dallas.
I did see that.
Yeah.
The Dallas Voyage.
Yeah, Voyage Dallas.
Voyage Dallas. Okay.
Yeah. I had one about a month prior to that.
That's awesome.
I just didn't push it that hard because I forgot. But anyway, yeah. Well, no, it's out there, and I think it's like their October or November. Camille's daughter Gracie has done stuff with them, and she recommended me, and then they asked me to recommend somebody, and I recommended you, and I recommended Otto, and I recommended Tiffany.
Well, let's be real, Tiffany. She works harder than I do.
Yeah. Also, I think I recommended Chris, so maybe I'll get a hold of one of those later. She works harder than you do, please.
She knows everything about everything that's going on. Like,
Yeah.
I'm like, sometimes I tell people, like, I know enough to get in trouble sometimes. So let me dig
Yeah.
into that.
All right. Also, we have Gayla at Southern Gym.
Love Gayla.
Yeah. Robin said you came by the other
I
day.
did go by the other day. I was talking about a little partnership that Gayla and I are going to do.
Really? What's that about?
Oh, it's just for like a client event for me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, she said, okay, Shannon said her, she goes, I have a school-related question. Hang on,
Oh, yes.
Shannon.
Hold on, Shannon.
Shannon, we're going to get to you.
Hold on.
There you go. Because I got to pay the bills here. All right. Anyway, also, thank you to, by the way, back to Sun Gym just for a minute. I've been asked before, when are they going to go downstairs, so to speak, to the bigger place?
I think she's hoping March is what she said.
March, right. And I also forgot to mention this about Otto. He's opening up his third restaurant in Cleburne in about March or April.
That's going to do great in Cleburne.
Oh, you bet it
yeah,
is.
it will.
Okay, on to the next one. Then we have our friend Michelle Humphrey at Hot Works. She'll be on next Monday.
Yes.
And we'll just talk about stuff. I mean, she'll talk about workout and infrared workout and her business and all, but she just likes to talk about, what's going on in the world.
Well, she's really interesting.
Yeah, she is.
Yeah, I like Michelle.
And Hot Works at the infrared system with 11 different workouts, and there you are. It's going to really, it's a different kind of workout. And I know people that go to CrossFit and then they go straight to Hot Works to kind of loosen the muscles up after they've been building them up real heavy. And then we have our insurance agent, Melissa Harmon, 682-804-0534, Texas Farm Bureau. She'll help you save some money in your insurance. It saved me some money and amped up the coverage, and so I'm in pretty good shape with Melissa, so you can be too if you're looking for that. Also, we have a coat drive going on at Trinity Chiropractic. I had breakfast with this Dr. Chase Dias, who's running that. Had breakfast with him at our place, of course, last Friday. Very interesting guy. We talked a lot about life and philosophy and theology as much as anything else, more than just a chiropractic work. And so he's a very deep person, and so if you bring a use code in, he'll get it to the Beautiful Feet Ministry, and you'll get a free.
Oh, that's a great ministry.
Yeah, it's well known.
It is,
and you'll get a free inspection and whatever else, adjustment, X-rays, the whole works. It'll be like
nice.
full on.
I'm sure we have coats around my house.
Oh, I bet you. Oh, anybody has kids? I mean,
yeah.
Okay, Shannon, we're going to drop this question on the beginning.
Shannon,
okay,
you're just going to bring it hard.
Bringing it
hard and fast.
Yeah, okay. Come on, I'm trying to read it.
Okay, I can see it. Says I have a school-related question.
Oh, here it is. I get to read it. I just had to have it pop up here. It says, I have a school-related question. What would you say should be done to deal with the bullying that occurs in all levels of schools? Also, do you feel it's important to share the steps taken to deal with the offender of such bullying activities to curb any future bullying? You've been thinking about this question, I could tell.
Yeah.
So basically, let's start with that. I mean, bullying is a thing that's gone on since the dawn of time. I remember Socrates complaining about his students bullying each other. Well, not really, but I'm just saying it occurred when we both were in school.
Oh, for sure.
And it's become a lot more prevalent now, at least where we recognize it more. I think
there's just so many more avenues to bully, right? Mm-hmm. We have so many. Like, you can't just turn a cheek and go home and be with your friends, right? Because a lot of kids, especially older kids, are on social media and this and that. And, like, it feels like it spreads like wildfire. Now, this is kind of a hot button for me.
Yeah, of course. You can tell about as much as you want.
Yeah, I had a kind of a situation with my middle child. She reported a bully that was bullying someone else who she felt like, we do not know for a fact, she felt like he might have been ASD, autistic spectrum disorder, because her brother is. And I felt like overall, Centennial High School really handled it well. I had an issue with a specific teacher that I didn't feel like handled it well, but I had to keep pushing and pushing to, like, this is not okay. I'm not going to deal with this, and lots of meetings. But so this is a hard one to unpack, because I think bullying in young ages is a little bit different than bullying in high school. Not that either one is more damaging than another, right? It's just you're going to deal with small children in a different way than you're going to deal with high school kids. So I feel like smaller kids, we definitely need to have an avenue of getting the kids who are being accused of bullying maybe some help, like counseling help, or like, I don't know if that's on campus. The counseling on campus, the mental health on campus needs to be addressed. And that is kind of one of my hot buttons that I'll dig into. But if you can nip that in the bud at an elementary school, the likelihood that kid is going to continue in that problem at greater ages is a lot lower.
Well, here's the thing, a lot of people my age, they think of bullying, we think of it differently. There's always going to be some aggressor alpha male on the playground and whatever else. And some people say, well, aren't you kind of taking it too far? That's just boys being boys kind of thing, or girls being girls or whatnot. And I think what you hit the topic though right on the head when you talk about addition of social media, because it's gone beyond, bumping up against each other at the playground. It's gone to now a persecution almost, heckling, harassment, and all this, and as parents, we're also very, very keen to make sure our kids aren't being bullied. I remember when Hayden was much, much, much smaller, like 7th grade, we always told him, don't be the aggressor, but don't get beat up either.
Right.
Okay, so one day he and a buddy were just standing by the track outside what was then Kerr Middle School, and some guy just came up and belted him. Why? For no reason.
Wow.
And so, Hayden struck back, and they were going to give both boys equal punishment until Robin got involved, and boy, Darth Robin is not what you want to see.
No, Mama Bear. Yes, because she's quiet.
Well, we're just standing there and he gets hit, and what do you want him to do?
Right.
But a lot of people don't take it very seriously because they remember when they were in the 7th grade or 5th grade, having scuffles on the playground or something like that, or you having some guy try to be a tough guy. I don't know if we're really talking about the same thing though when we're talking about bullying.
No, I think Shannon, clarify. I think more you're talking about. It's to me, physical aggression is an obvious no, right? There are specific consequences for kids becoming physical, but I would assume that what you're talking about is more of the subtle bullying that like it's kind of hard to pinpoint. It really, it affects your child in such a way that it's really affecting their self-esteem. But how do you have consequences for something that is not just so brazen? Is that, I hope she's still listening.
Well, she'll respond.
Okay.
Here's another thing. Is like, I think there's a difference between bullying between guys and girls, because the boys, they go take care of the problem physically. They'll have to fight.
Normally they would. Yes.
Yeah, and it's over, or more or less, and you don't have that constant persecution thing going on. But I've seen.
I don't know. I feel like there's a lot of mob mentality these days. It's not just a one against one anymore. It's like. It's almost like you have a squad, right? And your squad has to take up for you. And then it becomes this like this mass that is really on this one person. And not everybody has a lot of friends that feel like they can stand up against some of these kids, right?
Okay, what Shannon says, the one that she had to deal with was physical. It was a boy against my daughter. That's a lot. That has a different connotation.
Yeah, I do feel like there definitely has to be. It doesn't even matter to me. Here's the thing: yes, if it's a boy against a girl, obviously, the generation I come from is you don't hit girls, right?
Right.
But any physical confrontation needs to have clear consequences.
Well, more than just a stern talking to, because if you're going to have a young man that's going to be aggressive with a girl physically, you're asking for when he's going to be that way as an adult. The school said they would handle, and I have no idea any consequences truly happen to the offender, and that's something that.
So that is tough because
that explains the other part of the question. Should they be made more apparent what the consequences and the steps taken for it?
That's a tough one because I was in a similar situation where I did feel like the school handled it, but again, they couldn't tell me how they handled it. Right. So you kind of have to trust that it was handled. I do think that when there is physical confrontation that is proven physical confrontation, like you should know what consequences were passed down. Like, did that kid miss school? Like, was he suspended? Is he?
Shannon, if you want to, could you tell us the grade level or at least the school level of the daughter? I don't, if you don't want to share
Was
that.
it middle school or elementary?
Yeah.
Maybe.
If you don't want to share that, I understand too.
Yeah.
But the point is that if you have a young man that's being physical with girls, he's going to be an abuser when he's an adult. I don't care.
I think when they're elementary school, that might be different.
I think
But by middle school, you're creating a situation that's going to be wildfire.
Well, but also if he's getting away with it in the 4th grade, they'll think he can get away with it in the 8th grade, 12th grade adult.
I can see that.
I ended up having to pull my
high school, junior. High school, absolutely not.
That's
I mean, that is.
I'd get the police involved in that one.
Yes, I think I would too. If my child was physically attacked.
Or even if no one laid a hand on her, but the threat of being physically attacked was there. This is for the cops. Also, not just Centennial or BHS.
Yeah, but I think they should have been clear with you what the consequences were. 100%.
Well, maybe that's something.
And I will note like everything that I think I want Allard to send me kind of these notes because these are things I want to know. Right? What is the current? Because I can't possibly know every single policy, but it's important that we do dig into a lot of these policies and be like, what is the policy? What's the thinking behind that policy? How can that actually be improved? I thought, okay, so they wouldn't get involved because the school was handling.
Now you got to read that out loud, Shandy.
Okay, it says she filed a report with the police, but they wouldn't get involved because the school was handling it.
Well,
I think I would have pushed that issue. Some of that is, unfortunately, you have to be more aggressive
and persistent
and that's not fair, and it shouldn't have to be that way, but I think that that's the world we live in. Like,
well, plus the fact is
they don't want to deal with it.
There may be some sort of legal protections about privacy issues and whatever else, but you as a parent, you need to know,
but have some real answers, not just handling it.
Right, you need to know as a parent, there's got to be a way to communicate that this will not be a threat to your daughter anymore.
Right.
Period.
And I'm sorry that happened to you.
Yeah.
That's got to be scary.
Well, now you know what the community's thinking about that.
I know.
And it's a good thing.
So, yeah, I'm going to dig further into that. I do think that you should have known what the consequences were for that. And that they were handled. Obviously you knew who the kid was, so I'm not sure exactly why you couldn't know the consequences.
Okay, it's been a few years, she says, but I got shut down. But this is, Shannon, you're probably not anywhere near the only person that's had to deal with this over the last few years.
Yeah.
And I know the thing about the school board itself is that a lot of people think that they have the power to just intervene and make things happen. Well, really the one person you deal with directly is the superintendent.
And you do have to go through the proper channels to get to the superintendent. Unfortunately.
Well, but not as a board member, you pick up the phone.
As a board member, I would not. But I'm saying as a parent, because I've dealt with that too. Like, I'll just call the superintendent. That's my mom and me.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, hold on, relax. Go through the proper channels. And usually when I do take the proper channels and I am firm, but I realize it's not necessarily the administrator's fault that things are the way they are, but you definitely have to push issues.
Some people think that the board members have the ability to hire and fire, which they do not.
No, they don't.
And they have the ability to intervene on a campus and say, I don't want that teacher teaching anymore or that subject anymore. They don't have that authority.
No.
And if a board member tried that, then they'd be sanctioned. I mean, by the state, not by anything local. It's just there are certain restrictions the board has in terms of dealing with individual teachers. Now, let's say Shannon came to you as a board member and said, this is what's happening.
Right.
You go to the superintendent.
Absolutely.
And you can go directly to the superintendent. You don't have to file any forms. You get on the phone. But if you yourself could not go to that teacher and say, knock it off or whatever else.
I would have to go through the proper channels as well.
And I only remember once or twice in my 30 years where a board member tried that and it didn't get anywhere. It wasn't like that. We're talking a long time ago too. It didn't get anywhere. The board properly function does speak to and through the superintendent, but you're available for meetings, biweekly meetings, or maybe they go to monthly when it's a little less business going on, but quite often it's biweekly. And then you have open forums and whatever else. And of course, everybody's free to contact you on your on your whatever address you put out there, each board member does have their own email address through the district. And I'm just saying that some people have the wrong idea about
the power of the school board.
Yeah. It's not quite. And even if you had a board member that's really aggressive, you got 6 others that they have to persuade. So.
But I think that's definitely, I mean, it's a conversation that needs to be had. That much aggression. There has to be a way of making you as a parent feel like your child is seen and heard and they are safe. The safety of students should, and I do believe Burleson ISD does want the safety of their students to be number one.
I really do.
I just think we're growing so quickly. We've got to figure out how to make it attainable.
Right. And no matter how diligent the board, a staff of a school is, there's always going to be incidents. It's how you handle the incidents.
Exactly.
That makes the difference. And, on other topics, we've talked about this plenty before you started running. We had conversations and it seemed like you had you didn't have an agenda as sort of like, here, by God, I'm going to change all this.
No.
But what would you like to see done? Either better, more often, more emphasized if you become when you become a board member.
I think that the main thing is that the board is an avenue to help bridge the gap between the parent and the educators, right? It's like to help us figure out a way to collaborate and partnership for the good of as many kids as possible. Now, it's not humanly possible to have every single child's needs met to the nth degree. I totally understand that. I have an oldest child that had a lot of, they're not disabilities. He was neurodivergent in many different ways. And so realistically, it would have been irresponsible of me to think that the school district could have met every single need he had. But it was my job to work with schools and teachers to try to find the best avenues until we couldn't find the best avenues, right? So I think that really that's what I want to see. And I know that feels very like pie in the sky and whatever, but I think there are real concrete steps that can be made to help teachers get the support they need in every school and to help parents feel like they're being heard. And that there is actual action, even if it's small action, that is being implemented to help each kid feel like they are safe in Burleson ISD, that they can grow here, that they can look back and think, I'm so glad I went to that school.
Well, and like you do. I mean, I do. A student, and you really enjoyed your experience.
I did.
And it had been a somewhat different era, but that experience is still being shared. I think one thing happens is when people talk about their school districts, they focus on incidents like Ms. Sutter had, and that's fine. It's their own kid, rightfully so. But
and that sticks with you because that was a life-changing event for her, and she had to be pulled out of school, which is
sad,
really hard.
Yeah, unfortunate.
Yeah.
I do believe, and you do too, that the district is overall doing a pretty good job. I mean, is it perfect? Of course not. It never will be this side of heaven. But I do believe the school district now is doing a really great job. It's ironic because you mentioned schools of choice, right?
Yes.
I had Dr. Lindsay Bird on Thursday. I'm sure you were wrapped in attention to that show.
I'm going to go back and watch it.
Yeah, go back. Again, you meant. Anyway.
Again.
All right. Dr. Bird was on talking about the schools of choice, and that didn't happen for your generation. It's certainly not mine.
No, it did not. There was one way in, one way out.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
But you would like to see that continued, right?
I do. I really like schools of choice, and having, I have 3 children, all of which are completely different. They enjoy completely different things. They're geared completely different. And I do like the avenue of being able to have them kind of pick their own route. So like my middle went to STEAM Middle School, and then she chose to go to Centennial mainly because she wanted to play golf. We had talked about the collegiate which she's kind of a perfectionist and gives herself some anxiety. So I'm glad we didn't go that route. But
it was there for you.
It was there, which was nice to be able to weigh that option. And then my youngest, I actually just applied for her because she's in 5th grade. And I applied for her for 6th grade for the gaming school or STEAM. But I really would love it if she could get into the gaming school at some point, just because her brain is geared that way. I don't understand. But that's okay. I don't have to understand.
Well, according to Dr. Bird, which again is on Apple and Spotify, but today is the beginning of the sign-up period.
Yes,
and Friday
I did it today.
Yes, and Friday afternoon it shuts down at 4 o'clock, and so you only have a week to do it. And I was like, whoa, parents better get on the stick because. Back in my day to high school, you have like 6 weeks to make your schedule out or something like that, make your choices. Well, you have a week to make this happen or else you'll be on the waiting list.
Well, I will say that the elementaries in particular and the middle schools are pretty good about giving that information out. And I will say that because, there are times things slip by. My older kids are very responsible and I'm like, just tell me because if I need to be involved, I'll be involved. But they're pretty in charge of their education at this point. But if I saw it and I'm the one like, oh, click, 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 not half the time I'm like, okay, that seems important. I'll go back to it. And I actually saw it and knew it, then there was good communication. Yeah.
Well, I do know that Dr. Bird said that they've been sending out a ton of emails because they don't want to have to answer those calls. I didn't know or whatever.
Yeah.
Because that's an uncomfortable conversation to say the least. But
there has to be a window, right? Because that's a lot of kids you're trying to place in a lot of different schools because we have a lot of schools of choice at this point.
Well, and the thing about it is, like some people think, well, really all the high schools or all the public schools should do is give them the basics and let them choose these kind of more advanced choices at the collegiate level. And my point is, if you're waiting that long, it's going to be too late because they're going to be competing against kids that come from districts similar to ours that have these kind of advanced programs.
I remember when I think Grand Prairie might have been one of the very first school districts in the area to do the schools of choice. And that was back when, I'm going to really date myself, like way back in the day when my youngest was really young and I helped teachers with 403Bs. And, they were talking about Grand Prairie and their schools of choice. And I was like, what is this strange animal you are speaking of? Yeah. And I thought that was really interesting. So, the minute that Jimerson was talking about schools of choice, like I immediately was like, oh, I get it. I've heard about this. It's been around. And I really do like it. And I think that, obviously there'll be people who don't get in and that's unfortunate, but it's, at least it's there and there are multiple avenues.
Well, it's ironic because I do these BSD shows now. And now that I'm out of the system as a retiree, I can look at the broader picture as opposed to what was happening in room 123 and in my curriculum and my 130 students. And you see the bigger picture and you're like, hey, we actually got some stuff going on here.
Yeah.
The game in school course. And then we talk about the early collegiate programs and all this. And I honestly get afraid that sometimes people will say, well, my taxes are too high, so we need to cut these programs. And we can't afford to go back as a community to where we just offer the 3 R's and shut up. We have to prepare our kids in a way that's a lot different than we were prepared.
Well, and even myself, I didn't have email until college. We had dial-up in high school, which was basically useless. Yeah. And, I just think that we have to look toward, you cannot like it, but we are moving in a global society.
But then you said, and there are people that old crabby old people that think that maybe we should just scale back because it costs so much. But the vast majority of Burlesonians, I'm quite sure, are pleased with the opportunities their kids are getting that they didn't get. And as a realtor, you could probably say to somebody moving into town, well, by the way, our schools offer all these things. And I bet that's
it's a response. It surprises people too. Yeah, there are all these things. And so I do think the schools of choice was a good move. And I do think overall, our board and our administration does want what's best for our children. There's always things that are going to fall through cracks. And I want to address those things, but some of which I really feel like my big thing right now is I do want to address mental health in our kids. And I want to start addressing that younger, not just like, because number one, I have 2 older kids. I'm not an anxious person. I don't have anxiety. I don't take anxiety meds. And that's not me saying that I'm so amazing, but I have 2 children who are very anxious, and one of which is on medication. And, I see how they struggle. And being a person that is not anxious, I'm constantly looking for resources to help with that. And so I feel like at a younger age in elementary school, we can teach some basic skills to help deal with stress. Because our kids, while all the programs are great, the more we expect of them, the more stressed they are, right? So we have to have avenues of release.
And here's another issue, though, is like when I was dealing in high school, and this was a problem even when you were in school, but certainly in the last few years, we're growing so fast. There's so many kids that our counselors really don't have time to counsel. They very rarely do they have the opportunity to sit down and talk to them about mental or emotional health issues.
They're dealing with schedules and schedule changes and, all the just basics ins and outs. Although I loved Mr. Ernest. He was my favorite.
Sure. I mean, and they, God bless them, they worked hard. But everyone I ever knew well enough to talk to them about this, which is many of them, they would say, I got into counseling to counsel, not just to make schedule changes or administer tests or whatever else. And I know that there have been some steps taken by BISD to provide mental health professionals, but it's not at the level they need to, and they know it. They know it, but it is a financial consideration.
Yes, and it's on my list this week. It's on the top of my list to know the actual ratio of student to counselors, because it's already proven that obviously the lower that ratio, the better the mental health of your students.
Well, and I'd love it if we had enough counselors that they'd still deal with the academic side, but they also have a little bit more flexibility in their day. That's if you have a young person that's having maybe just a temporary emotional thing,
right,
and it doesn't need professional help, just needs somebody to talk to about it. They have that opportunity, and I didn't see that, and it's not, again, it isn't because our counselors weren't working hard. My gosh.
No, they're just bogged down, just like most teachers. They're bogged down in the everyday grind, right?
Right.
And I mean, parents are bogged down in the everyday grind too. So, we've got to be cognizant of everybody's struggle to make ends meet and do their job, and also try to be excellent at it, which is so hard.
And the vast majority of Burleson ISD parents and constituents support it. There's always that cranky few that thinks, well, the school shouldn't be teaching character or moral values. Unless they're my moral values, then there you are. But I'm saying that they think the schools are doing too much. And I'm saying this is not the same generation that we went to school back in 1975.
Well, and I also think that you're speaking from your own perception, which is fine. And maybe you were a great parent and still are a great parent, and you have these really hard conversations with your kids, and it is, your home is a place of safety, and they know what you expect and what you believe, and they are, they have a strong foundation of what they are probably going to believe, right? But to assume that everybody has that is irresponsible for a school district. I'm going to speak, my mom will not mind me speaking from experience. I was raised by a single mother. My dad was, he lived locally, but pretty much not in the picture. She was just doing the best she could a lot of days just to pay our bills. And thank goodness I was not an anxious child. I had a brother, and I hate to open that door, but I had a brother who had a lot of issues, and he was hard to deal with. And unfortunately, the schools were not a help. So there were things that I feel like could have been done to help our situation that Burleson ISD just did not have the capability or the foresight to think that there were families that didn't have the time or the resources to get their children professional help.
Right. And even back in the day when you were students, we would give you the DARE program,
Right.
or something like that. Or we'd have Red Ribbon Week and all this other stuff, and that's all great.
Right.
But that's done on a mass basis, not an individual basis. And we didn't have that. And today's society requires that. And it does, and again, I don't want to just make a blanket statement. The vast majority of the constituents of this district support it. But to the critics who say that they were spending too much money or spending too much time, or it's some sort of weird philosophy you're following, that it's rubbish. They're mistaken in that opinion. Now, I don't say that too often, but they're mistaken to think that these things are necessary, because they are necessary. It's harder now to be a young person than it was when I was a kid. Now, and I had that kind of.
Well, your life is such. It's there. You just have a spotlight on your life all the time. We didn't have that. There was a place of refuge, whether it be at our friend's house or at our own home, or, we could separate from all of the pressure to some degree. Where now it's like there's not only pressure to be great at school, but now you need to be an influencer, and you need to be doing this, and your picture should look like that, and this is what your body should look like, and it's constant from all avenues and it's too much. It's too much.
Yeah, right. She says there are. Shannon again has another good question. There are more and more. There are children in our district that need more because of ADD, ADHD, and etc. How can BISD do better for all?
This is a big hot button for me, because I have my oldest child he is ASD, ADD, and he has dyslexia. And he went through Burleson ISD to 5th grade until it was pretty obvious it was not a good fit. And so we moved him to private school, the Hill School, if anybody looks into it. It's specific for neurodivergent kids. And that was a real financial burden on us. But, we were privileged to be able to make it work. I do worry about the kids that have parents that don't have that opportunity. And that is on my list of how do we really get these kids not just skating by, because many ADHD kids are and I'm going to say the majority are very intelligent children. Their brains just work completely different. And I think that a lot of that has to do with, training. Again, starts at a very young age. It's teachers trained to understand how an ADHD mind works. And I know that accommodation to every single kid in every single class feels so overwhelming to teachers. But I think there are small things that can be done and taught from even kindergarten.
Well, again, I keep going back to my own experience back in the 90s and whatnot. If a kid had these issues, it wasn't. The two options was either a frap upside the head or Ritalin, and that's not really effective anymore.
I will speak about an example. I'll give an example from my childhood. My brother was severely ADHD. I mean, severely, and he did not go to elementary school in Burleson. We'll just leave the district out right now, but. I can remember being a child, and it was a constant. In 2nd grade, they would just put him in the hall. They just wouldn't deal with him.
Well, that's what Shannon just said. If you could see that she just put a statement in here. She says there are many kids, or I assume many. My grandson is currently in pre-K and is being pushed into isolation already. I don't know that situation, but it doesn't sound like it's the best situation.
No, and I think it is typical of teachers feeling overworked because, basically they don't have the mental capacity to deal with that right now,
or
right?
Emotional capacity,
or the emotional
because
capacity.
they got all these other kids. But that's I'm not excusing, Shannon, what's happening to your grandson, because that's a great concern, I'm sure.
No, and that's a real issue, and to a large degree, it happened to my son. Like, he would always have his desk by the teacher because he made a lot of noises. He's ASD, so he had a lot of stimming things. And so he had made a lot of noises that he had no idea he was making, which was a disruption to the class. I will share some of the things that Hill School taught us as parents and that the teachers used that were totally doable in public school. it's great that he only had 7 kids in his class, and that's not really doable in public school. But there are some real solutions that they provided that were super helpful and that can be implemented as early as pre-K.
Well, that's to me, that makes you one of the best candidates for office we have for this, because you're going to be able to bring in a perspective, not just as a professional in the real estate industry, but also as a mom that's had to deal with 3 very different children.
Yes.
And for 3 different sets of needs, 3 separate mindsets, if you will. And that kind of experience, I mean, it's hard earned.
Yeah, and 2 of my kids had 504s. Like my firstborn had a 504 in place. Like that was a yearly thing. And now my daughter's a junior in high school, and we're having her 504 meeting. I think it's next week or the week after. But
and she's a top flight student. My wife knows her. So when you say 504, people who outside the industry think 504 is like a designation for some sort of remedial action. No. It's just a different approach to make sure that their needs to be met. I had kids that were 504 for all sorts of reasons. Some of them are physical, I found out. Maybe bad eyesight or whatever. But I had 504 kids going to the best schools in the state.
Right.
Because it's not a designation of learning disabilities. It just like I even get them a DBU now as well, and it's not like, you need to talk real slow.
Right.
It's like,
and my son has has ADA accommodations at Hill College.
Yeah, it's Hill too. But what it is
also he's like a genius.
Yeah, right.
So
the accommodations I normally get at Hill and at DBU are like sometimes they have to have. If you're going to do PowerPoints, make sure they have access to them, which they do. Or if you're going to have a timed test, they get maybe
extra time. Or recording. Sometimes they'll record because they can't, like taking notes for a kid who's dysgraphic or dyslexic is torture.
Sometimes if they have physical or auditory problems, they have to sit in certain parts of the room.
Right.
That's what a 504 is.
Yeah.
It's not like life skills designation or this guy has severe learning disabilities, and dyslexia is the most common one. That doesn't have any connection to IQ. I could tell you that right now.
Which is interesting, though. When I would like people to understand also, though, that dyslexia, just like ADHD, just like ASD, just like any other neurodivergency, presents differently in different kids. So, like, my daughter has had to deal with. There have been teachers like, my daughter has dyslexia and she doesn't deal with that. Well, maybe she doesn't, but dyslexia it's a broad overview of that particular neurodivergency, right? It's not like all dyslexics do this, 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 and this, just like all kids on the spectrum. I mean, talk to Center for ASD. The spectrum is called a spectrum for a reason. You have kids who are nonverbal all the way up to my son who works at the library, who you'd probably not really even know he's ASD at this point. So I just think that we have to be aware that that's why the 504 is in place, and that we have to educate parents on how to advocate for their children properly. That is one thing my mom did teach me well, was, now granted, she could get a little horsey. But
David Crosby said, teach your children well.
Yes, but advocating and teaching your children to advocate for themselves. That's a parental thing. Now, but teachers also need to understand that just because they have somebody diagnosed in their class does not mean that they are oh gosh, I've got 4 ADHD kids. What am I going to do? They're all going to be like this. Not true.
And I can vouch for that. Every year at the beginning of the year, I get the list of students, of course, and that information, of course, is highly confidential. The teacher couldn't share it, but unless it was with a counselor, an administrator, or somebody else on the boy or girl's schedule. And, the only ones that I said, okay, this might take a little bit extra attention would be if they had like auditory problems or if they had other, but as far as like processing issues, I do know certainly towards the last 10 years of my career, we had a structure set up at the high schools to work with that. My wife did some of that, and she also did, and a lot of her colleagues did, paraprofessionals and whatever else. And so, it's a tough road to hoe, but I'm glad that you're running.
Yeah.
And I really feel confident about your winning.
Also, I do want to put a little note, because I know we're running out of time, but I want to put a little note that I also would like to partner with a lot of these the nonprofits throughout Johnson County who can help supplement some families in some of the needs that they have. I think that it's important that the school district, we know the school district can't do it all. It just can't. I know we want all of our tax money to go to what we want. Like my family has specific needs. Shannon's family has specific needs. Everybody's family has specific needs, right? But the school district's role is to do the best for as many of the majority as they can. And I think that if we can develop partnerships, even with the classroom teachers and some nonprofit organizations that provide services and have those resources to where, okay, yes, I'm not going to be able to do this specific thing every day, but I have a resource for you and I can connect you, right? And have teachers that will help teachers feel like they have a community of support, and parents have a community of support.
Well, yeah, Jackie Jones says it's nice to see someone who is informed.
Thank you, Jackie.
Let me read it right. My glasses are now working today. It's nice to see someone so informed running for office. And
Thank you.
That's really nice. And there, I'm glad that this conversation took the direction it did. Thank you, Shannon.
Yes,
for
Shannon.
bringing these things up but now I didn't get to ask my question. So you're going to have to come back again in a month.
Oh, what was the question?
Me? Always go talk about the tax rates.
Oh man, let's not go there just the second.
Yeah, that's they're going to give you a little time to prepare, a little heads up, because that's not so. Oh well, they're fine. No, because tax issues are going to come up.
Well, I would like to see where the state is going to send that $34 billion of surplus, and I would like it to be to education.
Oh, really? Did you stop by the liquor store on the way to the show today? What are you talking about?
I know. I know. I mean, $34 billion, you guys. Those are tax dollars straight to the state, who actually do pass down the state mandates on testing.
We also was going to ask you about curriculum issues, but I don't have time for that.
Oh, I know. We're going to have to come back.
Yes, you are. So as far as the candidacy part, we've been talking about policies and whatnot, but describe as best you can your candidacy, where you're going to be, how they can get a hold of you, how could they support you, things like that.
Well, I'm running for place 4, and that was Andy Pickens' old place.
Thank you, Andy, for all you did.
Yes, thank you, Andy. I've had several conversations with Andy, which he's always been so kind and open to conversation, which I appreciate. And then I currently have a Facebook page that is specific to me running, and it's Shandy, Priddy, Stogsdill.
It's on. Is it
for
BISD
trustee.
Let's see. Is it not on the screen over here? Not on the big screen, but it's on our monitors here. There she is. I should always know that Taylor's on the job.
I would like as many questions filtered through there, because when you get on a random group, and you can always tag me on I'm pretty much a member on all the groups through Burleson, but it's harder for me to sort all of that, right? So even at the very least, if you see something about what I've said on another group, kind of push them to this page. It'll just be easier for me to streamline all those answers. And then, I've had people message me questions, and I'm happy to answer those questions, and I can share. I always ask, can I share that you asked me these questions? Most people say yes. If you say no, it's fine. I'll still answer the questions. I just won't share that you were asking them. And then I am got to get a bank account today. So once I have that set up, I'll have a link to a website if you want to donate for signs, or, it's going to pretty much be signs. It's going to be the major expense.
And then of course, Mr. Allard's Neighborhood.
Of course, Mr. Allard's
Well, because you're still also a paying sponsor for real estate. So if I slip up and mention that you're running for a race when I talk about your business, oh, darn. But
yes. So that's paid advertisement.
Yeah.
So he's smart.
Yeah.
So just those are the 2 places. Here's the thing about me is I'm not a politician.
That's for sure. You do tell it straight from the hip. I'll give you that.
I'm not a politician. I vote all over the place. I've never been a straight party ticket person. I probably never will. I like to vote the issues. So just so you know, like if someone wants to try to put me in a box, that's going to be really hard. And then I love Burleson. I grew up here. I'm going to get emotional about it. I grew up here. My kids are growing up here, and I just want to do something good for our community.
Mm-hmm. And Rose is also saying about her oldest son was in BSD, whom I know.
Yes.
And he had 504 and all this. And
I went to school with her daughter.
Yes. And I taught a couple of her kids as well. I was an active participant in planning with the teachers, and with him, he went to higher ed and now has a PhD.
Awesome.
So
that is so great.
Thank you, Ann. Well, I know
So see, it can happen. Like they considered Hill School, and they worked it out, and it can be. It just everybody has their own situation. It just didn't work for us, and that was fine. We tried a couple of things and we tried Holy Cross, we tried Burleson, we had a couple of different schools, and then we ended up just settling on Hill School. And and honestly, with the intent that he would only go through probably middle school and go back to high school in Burleson, but he just found a home there, and he felt comfortable. And when you have a child with ASD, consistency is key.
Right. So just to sum it up, though, if you want to help Shandy in her race, then they can contact you through your website. Was it again one more time?
Oh, it's the Facebook page.
Facebook page, okay.
Shandy, Priddy, Stogsdill for BSD trustee.
Okay. And you'll have your account soon. You'll have your donate button soon. You'll have all that. If you want to sign, let her know. Place 4 coming up.
Yeah, there's a place on that page you can request a sign.
And I wish you the very best.
And I don't know all the answers, but I promise you I'll answer things honestly and openly, and I'm never going to pretend like I know everything.
Well, I don't have a date in mind specifically in February, but sometime about maybe in the last 10 days of February, let's find a date that's convenient for us, and we'll talk about the other issues because there's a lot of them.
I know.
All right.
That's what I'm learning.
Yeah. There is a learning curve.
Yes.
Friends, share this page. All right. Share this not just this page, also this show.
I appreciate all the questions too. Thank you.
Thank you, Shannon. Thank you for your comments, Ann and Jackie. Share this episode of Mr. Allard's Neighborhood with your friends because it's important that we have high caliber people running for office, and we need to support them any way we can. And tomorrow, speaking of high caliber, I have Victoria Johnson on tomorrow.
Yay, I love Victoria.
And then on Thursday, I have Adam Russell, who's running for place 6 on the city council, whom I've never met, but I hear good things about. So.
Okay, I don't think I know Adam. I'll have to look that up. I might.
Okay. All right, we'll talk to you later.
Okay.
Bye-bye.